Alright, so now that we got this cleaned up, I'm going to flip it around and we'll get this broken down here. All you need is a flathead. Just come in here and there's a little retaining ring, circumference ring. Just go ahead and push that out of its lip. And then you can essentially just use your hand to pull the rest of it out. It's not that difficult. So this clutch has 3 fibers. So first things first, let's get our base plate in with our center hub. Alright, so first thing, you got your base plate, your metal base plate. You need a friction material. That's going to be your Type A disc. So you want your friction material to touch your base plate. So we're going to put our friction material face down, and that's going to leave you with a metal backside on this clutch. So it's friction material down touching the base plate. Alright, so next up is going to be your part B with the ears on the clutch fiber disc, and this disc has fiber material on both the front and back. So again, we're going to have fiber touching metal. Your little ears are going to go in the slots, and then you're going to have your fiber disc A again, and you're going to have metal side of it, a metal side of it, and a fiber side. So we're going to have metal touching fiber. We're going to put the metal side facing down, and then our last part is going to be the metal disc or metal plate, and then these holes are going to go over the spring areas, these springs. Alright, so that's the proper way to do it. And then next up, we're going to push this down and then get your ring on. So we'll go ahead and just apply some pressure. Set your ring up, the open end of this ring. Get it set so that at least when you're starting this install, that this one part is caught in the lip right there, even and flush. So you got that one starting point when you put this back in, which will make sure that your other part of your ring is captured too. So you can just use your finger on this. It's not a hard thing to do. And then let it seat itself. Again, like I said, right there, start it right there. Just push down, make sure everything gets sat back in place. And that's complete. So you got both of these parts are captured in these machined lips. And you're ready to install the clutch basket back on now. Actually, I'll show you a quick way to test it, just to make sure you installed it and it's functioning correctly. Kind of bench test it, I guess. So a way that you can test any of these centrifugal clutches on these Hondas. Get your little splined gear that's on the crankshaft that goes behind the clutch, and then put it in the splines for you. And you should be able to turn it clockwise. Hold your basket. You should be able to turn it clockwise, and you'll have a little resistance, but you can always turn it. Alright? But as soon as you turn it back the other way, counterclockwise, it should bind up, so it's grabbing. So it's not so it's working appropriately. So spin clockwise, counterclockwise, no go. You're good to go. Alright, so let's get that basket, clutch basket back on. Take my protective coating off. I'm not gonna need this anymore. Got a new gasket for it. Thankfully the previous owner already had to do all the hard work scraping it. A little residue here, I'll clean that up, but for the most part he's got all the gasket off. So that spline part I was showing you how to test the clutch with, let's put that back on the crankshaft. Alright. I'm gonna just take a minute to get in here and clean this off, and then we'll get back at the install of the basket. Here, so I got the gasket all cleaned off, the case better. This is the oil screen that I was mentioning also, so let's check that, make sure that's kind of clean, debris free, which it is. Put that back, and I'll just take this as an opportunity where everything gets reinstalled to just wipe my case dry again so that my gasket has a nice dry surface to stick to. That's why I like working on these bikes on the side, because I can get everything nice and clean. If it was up, standing up upright, you'll have just constant dripping of oil everywhere. So, works for me. Alright, might as well just put your new gasket on. Just make sure you got both your dowels. There's a dowel here again, and then a dowel down here. On my instance, it's stuck in the side cover, so I got my other dowel on my side cover. If you can get it out, I would recommend just putting it back into this hole so both of them are in the engine center case, and then you're just pushing your right side clutch cover back on. They just came from the mail, and then I'll put my dowel in here, so I have them both in the center case. It keeps my gasket in place. Alright, let's put our clutch basket on. You're going to need to get these splines to sit inside of this clutch basket here. So it might need a little bit of, you can use the primary gear to kind of turn the gear back and forth. As it rotates, it will find its way back into these teeth here, or the teeth will find their way back in the splines. So just going to kind of twist this around a little bit, make sure. Alright, so we're good. And we'll put our retaining ring back in. Actually, that could go down further. Not quite in yet. There you go. Alright, so put your locking washer in there. And you got your other washer that says outside. Put that facing up. Then put your special nut on. And I'll use my impactor to that set in, and then we're going to want to find a tab. This one looks like it's in a good alignment, so we'll bend that tab so it sets back into this nut and holds it in place. Next up, let's get our gasket on. Cover, put the bearing in. I like to have the logo showing up on the top of the bearing, so I don't know if it really matters, but that's how I do it. And you put your 3 screws back in. Next up is your main plate. You push that tab into the bearing. pull this out so I can show you. So push that in, then you got your through hole, oil through hole mechanism with the spring inside. Spring goes in, and then you want to push this or put the spring down, so and then make sure it goes up and down without any binding. Next up is the spring. Okay. And then I have a new plate I'm going to put in, a new Honda plate, so we'll put that on. Since the other one was broken. And then on this, you want the lip of this plate. There's a lip on the on one side of it here, and then on the other. Lip goes down into the spring, and you seat the bearing in each one of its seats. And then your last part here, it's going to be your arm, and you want this at about 7 o'clock. This needs to turn this way. So you want that part to clear the arm, how I have it on the bearing plate. Alright. So I'm going to put the clutch cover on now. I didn't take this off because there was no reason to take it, but you got the other part that rides on that bearing that was messed up on the clutch basket. So this part is pre-installed. I'm going to turn this all the way clockwise so that this stud comes out and it pulls this part back away from the clutch basket. That'll make it easier for me to push this cover back down. So turn this stud with the flathead, turn it all the way clockwise, and then you'll have it positioned in the right way to be able to push down all the way, okay? Alright, so I'm going to get the clutch cover back on and then put all the case screws on and torque them nice and evenly. So on the case, we got all our screws here. We got our 2 long screws. Go ahead and put them in this long one in this top part, and then a long one in that one, obviously, and then all the rest are the same length, so we can just go ahead and put those in. Alright. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get this torqued down, and then we got this cover closed off. Alright, so now that the cover's on, 14mm nut, just make sure that's loosened up, and then we're gonna do our initial adjustment. So I'm gonna turn this all the way clockwise. Well, I might as well just turn it back a little bit. Now I'm gonna turn it all the way clockwise. Now I'm gonna back it counterclockwise until I feel resistance, which I do now. Don't go any further. And then you can go about an 1/8 inch or a 1/4 inch turn to get it set initially. So I'm just gonna go right there. I'm gonna lock this back down. And that will be our initial clutch setting for running this engine. We'll make adjustments if needed. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and get this bike up on its wheels again. I'm done with the clutch. Put my shift lever back on, my foot shift lever. It's a new oil in there. Make sure you fill your crankcase back up with the oil. Put about 700 mLs in there. It's probably a good 50 to 75 mLs still in that crankcase. So let's get this thing started. I don't have any footrests on this bike. He didn't bring it over with a footrest on it, but we'll keep an eye on the shifter so we weren't getting any shifting before. Kiddos. That's 4th gear, so we got all gears working. Let's go back to neutral. Make sure we can shift down on this guy. Alright, so our transmission is back. So that's going to be a wrap on this one. As always guys, subscribe and more videos will come.